revelation that Susan Rice sought to and succeeded in unmasking the identities of the Trump administration transition officials whose phone calls were monitored while they spoke to foreigners is, I think, a very important one, which unfortunately the liberal mainstream media has totally ignored. New York Times didn't even cover it, and two of the three networks didn't mention it, and the third defended Susan Rice as they were mentioning it. Let's understand what really happened here. When Obama left office and Hillary lost the election in a stunning surprise, the liberals and the Democrats decided to adopt a strategy of blame Russia. Blame that the Russians hacked the U.S. election, that they sent out disinformation, that they unearthed the emails of the Democratic National Committee and John Podesta, the chief of staff, and that this whole election was influenced by Putin, who wanted Trump to get elected. And to substantiate that point of view, the Obama administration needed to find out who the Russians were in touch with on the Trump transition team. Now, that eavesdropping, that surveillance, is normal. The FBI is supposed to surveil Russian agents and other foreigners who are involved in potentially influencing the U.S. policy. And in the course of doing it, they picked up several communications between those folks and members of the Trump transition team. But as the law requires, when you incidentally pick up a transmission that involves an American citizen, you cannot identify him. You have to say citizen 1, citizen 2, citizen 3. Well, Rice penetrated that and said, okay, I want to know who those citizens are, and then kept a list of them and traced through what calls they had been involved in. And that formed the basis of the Obama administration claim in its closing days that Trump's incoming people were in cahoots with the Russians. And in particular, Michael Flynn, the incoming national security advisor, was accused of having a phone call with the Russian ambassador, and the supposition was that they might have discussed weakening the sanctions on Russia that Obama had just imposed, and that Flynn might have told the Russians that when he took over, he would loosen those sanctions. Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with it if he did that. It's perfectly legitimate for an incoming official to signal a foreign power what he's planning to do within the 4 or 5 weeks remaining when he takes office. But this fueled the entire narrative, the idea that she discovered these contacts and these communications. Now, let's understand how totally phony this scandal is. Everybody agrees that the Russians did not try to alter the vote totals when the votes were counted. Everybody agrees that Trump himself, that there is no evidence that he was involved in any way with what the Russians were doing. And if Russia indeed outed the emails from the Democratic National Committee and from John Podesta in an effort to influence the election, what of it? I'm glad they did. And it's important that we learn the truth as the American people about what our politicians are doing, despite their efforts to hide them. But this entire thing fueled this whole national security scandal. And the revelation of these names permitted leaking that destroyed them or went after them. You know, the normal Washington punishment for being leaked on is the death penalty. You're forced out of office, like Flynn was. And Susan Rice has now been unmasked in this. And it's important for us to realize that all of these leaks, all of the stuff coming out of the old Obama administration, and now the stuff coming out of the bureaucracy criticizing Trump, are in fact largely from Obama holdovers who are doing this to embarrass the Trump administration. Thanks for watching.